Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are Adventuresome Reviews, braving the wild and untamed and absolutely deadly forest of self-published books.
This unpardonable crime on our part has been facilitated by an author in this situation. We were contacted, I know, it's a horrifying reality.
Yeah, we nearly died from the experience.
Yes, we're traumatized, which is why it's taken so long to get this review out.
We're also planning on suing the guy, but...
Yes, he will never recover financially. Regardless, we had a book submitted, ooh, fancy. People seem to almost like us, which is horrifying.
Yeah, that's also you're traumatizing.
Anyway, the book that was submitted is Michael Lachman's Black Dogs. Not Black Dogs. What? I'm crazy. BLACKCOATS series, the first book of which is called Dead Man Walking.
Not a terrible title.
Not a terrible title at all. The series features secret government organizations.
As all the best books do.
Yes. A terrifyingly traumatized and depressed main protagonist by the name of Adam, who is experimented on by his father to give...
Always a recipe for success.
Yes. In a bout of desperation, his father injects him with this super secret serum that converts him into a wild and strange type of superhero-ish style doodad. He gets gene spliced with a bat.
Which I really like, because, like, of all the animals you could go with, a bat is, like, wonderfully kind of off-meta.
Yeah, but still competently used, because the whole echolocation, which comes out more in further books in the series.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've only read book 1 so far, so I am desperately lost and flailing right now, but...
I've read up to book 3, but we're only going to be reviewing the first one, because my partner in crime here has been woefully lax.
I was lost in action. Yes, there's been hitmen after me, so I have a wonderful excuse. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they're not working fast enough.
You should really pay them more.
I was going to dock their pay. You don't reward incompetence.
But you incentivize hard work.
That's why you're eating dog food tonight.
Thank you, I'm making dinner. Regardless, book 1 is all about introducing us to this wild and fantastical world where the cryptids and zombies and vampires are all terrifyingly real.
Except none of that was actually authentic. This is not a fantasy story, which is kind of what I liked. It is what I'd call a serial, so it's kind of like Percy Jackson and the Harry Potters, where you have single characters going on different adventures in every book, loosely tied together by an overarching plot. A good example would be, what's his face? Urban Wizard, very popular.
Dresden?
Yeah, kind of like Dresden. Smaller adventures featuring the same characters and in an interconnected world. And this book distinguishes itself from most of those in the series, by not being standard fantasy paranormal. You're not going to find your vampires, you're not going to find your werewolves. At least not in the basic shape. The book series uses references and often mentions stuff like vampires and werewolves, but if things like them do crop up, they're wildly shifted. In book 2, there's a vampire scare, but it just ends up being a chupacabra. And this was something that I actually quite enjoyed about the book, is that it was not the standard super serial paranormal. And I also really enjoyed the aspect of being part of the secret organization, which again is underutilized in many paranormal, because you always have the paranormal as being secret, but you're always interacting with the fantasy side, the side that is secret, as opposed to the side that's supposed to be keeping it secret. And it's a little, like, in the book, the concept of the secret organization, the government organization, is a little underutilized as well, because you get there, you're introduced to it, and then there's nothing built upon it as an organization. You don't, or rather, there's some tidbits here and there with secrets and some of the backstabbing and information manipulation, which I really enjoyed, but it's still very straightforward. as opposed to what I really wanted, or not really wanted, because that's the wrong way to put it, but I was really hoping for there to be a lot more espionage within the organization itself, a lot more secrets that Adam had to interact with or be shoved out from, and it was just more of a straightforward story. And I was hoping that you would get more of that in future books, especially since there was distinctly hinted at with the way some of the characters interacted. Because you have a secondary main character in Holly, and she is actively, throughout the course of the book, manipulating Adam in specific ways under the command of her superiors to feed him specific information that she then tells him that he can't relate to anybody else, that she shared with him because it would be illegal, but she shared that information on the command of her superiors. I just really liked that concept.
Yes.
You can start talking whenever you want.
Well, you were just on such a roll and saying everything so prettily.
You're rarely this polite. You usually have things to add on. I was just sitting here waiting. I'm talking. When are you going to voice your own opinion?
Oh, never. I was going to leave you high and dry until you eventually trailed off, and then I was going to lambast you for it. It was going to be epic.
I'm sure it would have been epic. YouTube viral.
So, seeing as I'm being forced to talk,
I just had a really bad joke. I was like, YouTube viral. Something we'll never be except physically. Which is a really bad joke, but still amusing.
One of the things we just briefly touched on it, and it was how Holly was told by her superiors to manipulate Adam. And what this actually just kind of revealed to me is that the book actually handles character really well, right? They're not one-dimensional. They run a gambit, or whichever it is, of emotions. And Holly in particular was really interesting to watch and experience, because when she's introduced, she does not trust Adam. She does not like Adam.
She's extremely antisocial because she's been raised
by scientists, experimented on, and a bevy of unpleasant things. Basically a horror story for basically a tragic backstory, right?
And I was so looking forward to getting more of her character because of how interesting the role she plays in the story and the role she could play in the future with her relationship with Adam and with other plot points in the book. She has so much potential to be really interesting.
And so, swirling back to the antisocial bit, she struggles mightily with interacting, right? You have this moment but part of the book is dedicated toward her and Adam going back to high school, right? Adam never left high school, but he's allowed to go back to high school, and she is sent along as a guard dog. And she's just so incredibly awkward, staring broodingly at all the other classmates, and it's like, oh, I feel your pain here, girl. And Adam is just having a ball with his friends, talking, and while not being but he's not completely evil or mean, so he tries to introduce her to the friends and occasionally wraps her in the conversation and basically just tries to include her, but she is just so a fish out of water here that she's just struggling.
I would have liked there to be more of that, to get more aspect of her being a fish out of water, because it is definitely handled. It's just we don't ever get any really good moments of her being lost. It's just she's generally lost through the course of the story, and it isn't from her perspective, so that's obviously a little difficult, but it was just such a rich environment that I felt had more potential than it was.
And I really liked how the author did not play her coming into high school up for laughs or make her kind of just goofy or anything like that. It was not handled super seriously, but it was not given any form of levity.
Yeah.
Which I liked.
Agreed.
And part of the reason why we actually want to see more of it. Because it's not just her messing up. And even when she does mess up, she's not embarrassed by the fact. She's just stares broodingly because she doesn't have she's that kind of character.
Yeah. Adam is equally complicated, though to less effect. Adam comes in cold into this world and his father gets taken away and captured, and so he's obviously in a very stressful situation, which is good, and he reacts emotively to this stressful situation
In accurate ways.
in accurate ways. It's just he makes bad decisions, very obviously bad decisions, and some of those you can understand or you want, because you somewhat want your character in a serial to start out as being lesser so he has space to grow emotionally and physically into competence. And so some mistakes from Adam are very much expected and desired. It's just he makes some really dumb decisions. Like in the bottom of super secret underground base, I'm going to try and run away. It's like you don't even know where you're going. You don't have any hidey holes. And he tries to run away and escape. And
that, however, cannot be blamed on Adam. That is the author generating a scene with which to show Holly's talents. Because, Adam's DNA is spliced with that of a bat. Holly's was spliced with that of a wolf. So they are similarly competent individuals and supernatural. And so that entire...
Similarly supernatural, Adam is extensively less common because he hasn't been training or... whatever the word is.
Basically, he's wimp still. And so this scene was a way to display Holly and introduce her as a powerful character and just basically, here's another enhanced.
Yeah.
Which is not really something you can blame Adam for so much as just a small misstep on the author's part.
Agreed, and
it wasn't terrible by the extent.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible, and it's just... The other thing I didn't like was that Adam cries a lot. Like, a few tears every now and then is fine and expected, especially considering his situation, but he cries a lot in this book, comparatively. And it was just a little... After you get through the initial shock of your situation, you kind of need to adapt instead of just whining about it through 75% of the book. And it was just... It did not paint Adam in an appealing light how much he just failed to accept his situation or to adapt or to play around it. And he's old enough to be doing that. He's 15. And he's just...
He's sitting there complaining, but he doesn't trust the secret organization, which is smart, but he's not really doing anything to activate change. He's not digging for information. At best, he asks questions about his father and he poses it to people of the organization that he does not trust.
He's not proactive. He's very quickly proven that despite his enhancements, he is distinctly inferior to the weapons that the organization has at their disposal, mainly in the form of Holly. And despite being confronted with this truth, Adam makes no efforts to improve himself of his own accord. He is forced to do it by the organization, and I forgot what I was going to say. Regardless, he's forced to do it by the organization, and it just goes to the fact that he does nothing to try and improve himself besides complain. That's what I was going to say. And he complains about it all the time.
And we don't necessarily expect him to run around lifting weights or anything like that. We just want him to actually take charge of his own life.
To some small degree. Even if it's just mentally and not physically. To just try to do something.
Form a plan that basically amounts to, I'm going to lie in wait, get my feet underneath me before making my next move. That is a great plan. And to some extent, that's what he's doing. He never vocalizes it to the readers. And it comes across that I'm a prisoner here. I might as well do what they tell me type of thing.
Yeah.
Leaning into how the book takes common mythos and horror stories and converts them slightly. This is actually in great display in this book, because in this book we're introduced to the primary villains for the series, I presume.
I don't know if they're the primary villains. They're just going to be a recurring villain.
Okay, a recurring villain. There we go. And the author combines mole people with zombies to the extent that he has a hyper-sentient race of worms living under the ground come up and take possession over dead bodies, which is like, that's kind of trippy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them as antagonists. In part is just how the author introduced the theme of zombies into the book while making it more scientific as opposed to fantastical and horror in it. But also just the Rain as antagonists are very interesting because they have their flaws, they have their strengths, and it's interactive with the main characters, as well as being the Rain have authentic grievances with the organization, which is called chess. I keep wanting to say Shikai, just because they're the same word.
Yeah.
Not the same word, but the same 3 starting letters, and they're very similar organizations.
Yeah.
But chess is the organization for the Blackcoats.
Which I do not like. That is a terrible name for it.
I wouldn't have gone with terrible, but yeah.
So the main villains for this series or book is they're actually intelligent, right? Which is all you do. They have a plan, they put it into motion, and it's very obvious that the protagonists could actually have done very little to prevent this. Obviously, this leads to a decent climax wherein Adam and Holly have to run off into doom and death all by themselves, as any good book must end.
And Adam finally shows he has some qualities worth rooting for as a main protagonist.
Adam's moderately clever, yes.
Yes.
But the main antagonists, there's rules that they must play by, which I really enjoy. Because when they take over a body, the body is, of course, decaying. And as the body decays, it becomes weaker, less maneuverable. And so this I really enjoy this because it adds rules to the engagement. But it also gives chess, this super secret organization, is trying to find one of the villains who has recently inhabited a dead body. And they're on like a 3 to 4 day deadline because at that point, that is when the body becomes uninhabitable, and the antagonist must swap hosts, right? But if the antagonist swaps hosts, they have no idea who the new host is.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a really nice play around.
I think that's sort of all I have to say about the book. I really enjoyed... Oh, now we can talk about the prose and the pacing and the prose, and just the general construction of the book is quite solid.
I might say it works a bit better for younger audiences.
It is entirely a young adult book. It is
not necessarily for kids, but 12, 13, because it is a very fast-paced,
action heavy.
Not action heavy. It's just the prose is quick. It doesn't take too much time with anything, and it never really hurts the book.
Yeah, no, the prose is solid, just not flashy or
The book never takes time with anything, right? Which can be enjoyable at times. It's just
it's intended for a young adult audience. That's all you got to say. You don't have to pretend it's terrible and twiddle your mustache as you.
Well, I didn't necessarily want somebody to come in and expect this kind of in-depth narrative per se. This high flowing.
Oh, I know. That's what young adult says.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't talk, he yells at me. I talk a little too much, he yells at me.
I got to keep you on your toes.
If I'm not lucky, he's going to fire me from our old Civil War canon.
Yeah. I also have read the next 2 books, as I said before. Book 2, of similar quality, different stuff.
Centering more on Holly,
which I felt was too early. I wanted another book with Adam before, and so Holly would remain somewhat of a distant character that it's too soon to start getting in. I felt it was too soon to start getting into the psychology of who Holly was on the inside, because part of her appeal was of not knowing her inner thoughts, and so that when you actually do get to know it sort of becomes a little bit of a privilege because of how distant and cold she is. And so just having her immediately go into her thoughts, it felt too early, and sort of a wasted potential. As the series goes around, Adam improves slightly. We don't really get much more sort of mystery and secrets from the chess organization, which was I found a little bit.
Yeah, that is slightly depressing.
Yeah, and not so much depressing, it's just I don't feel like the author was maximizing the value of his setting, and some of that might be because he's just trying to write straightforward stories.
Yeah.
And a lot of sort of the inner organization shenanigans sort of fall off. They don't really come to a fruition in the future books, which is a little bit of a shame.
It would have been really nice to see Holly and Adam split away from the organization and go on the lam. That would have been an epic book.
It's probably going to happen in the future. And despite those criticisms, those are more criticisms for the entire series. Book 2, I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I enjoyed Book 2. Book 2 is about the same quality as Book 1. Different characters, different enemies, etc. Book 3 took a little bit of a downturn for me. Mainly again because Adam makes some really bad decisions. And it's to do with like his social life and some of the other stuff. And Adam... The parts of the series I find the least interesting are Adam dealing with his high school. Because it's just standard high school life for Adam. He's not battling to conceal the organization from them or his secret powers from them. The cool parts of the story have almost zero interaction with Adam's high school via Adam. And it leaves the high school and Adam's friends being somewhat boring for me. There's a fair more amount of that, as well as like relationship drama in Book 3, which I just did not like. Especially that relationship drama was almost all entirely because of Adam. It's not solid foundation drama, it's melodrama and flash and flare, and which took from the book being actually a really interesting setting, because Book 3 also features the rain, and it features them going to another dimension, which was really cool in its own ways. And it's a rain-dominated wasteland. And it was otherwise a pretty good book. It's just, again, the relationship drama rears its head, and the high school drama was like, yeah. Still, I'm enjoying the series. I'll probably read more of it.
I intend to read more as well. It's only because I'm hoping for a really nice relationship, friendship between Holly and Adam to eventually sprout, and a great deal of trust there.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it for me. Toodaloo, goodbye. And
fare thee well, our future friends.
go dig up a body.
Sell the organs if they're still sellable.
Yeah.
In these tough times, you gotta do anything possible.
Yeah. Bye.